In the spirit of respect, authenticity, and reconciliation, the town of Slave Lake honors and acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional lands of Sarwich First Nation within Treaty 8 territory, home to Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit peoples who have occupied these lands since time immemorial. Councillor Ferguson,
Motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Councillor Adams,
Motion to accept the regular meeting of council minutes from December 19th, 2023.
all right, any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Councillor Gramlich,
Motion to accept the regular meeting of council minutes from January 9th, 2024 as presented.
any further discussion? Call to question those in favor, and that is carried. Okay, our delegation is up first. Community Futures, hi. Yeah, if you can come up here and you need to say your full name and address, please, into the mic, and then the floor is yours.
Okay, Josh Friesen from Community Futures, Lesser Slave Lake region, located in Slave Lake on 3rd Street, somewhere in there. All right, so I haven't done a delegation with the town of Slave Lake for quite some time. So I wanted to give you guys kind of an update of what we're working on, get an idea of where we're at as an organization, how we're supporting the community, as well as make a few little asks. Now, these asks aren't formal yet. I will send you a formal ask later, but it's more just for support. I'm not looking for money, so don't worry. All right, so some of the things that we're working on this year is we are changing our loans processes and procedures. We're trying to modernize our organization to make sure that we're more accessible and easier accessible to the public and to those who are looking to get our services. So that started actually last spring with an analysis of our services and our loan products. And now we're starting to work on the process of developing a better system and a better product and a better organization for the public on our lending side. So we're really excited about that. That journey, like I said, started last year and it continues on now. So we're really excited about that. We just finished our strategic planning for Community Futures. Our board brought in some input. We got some input from some outside organizations as well to help us develop a better strat plan for Community Futures. And it's actually brought out a lot of interesting things that we want to focus on. One of those main changes that we're going to make is we're going to shift from just focusing on business supports and lending. We will still be focusing on those, but we will also be really focusing in on economic development and economic development support for the entire region. Our region spanning from Wabasca and a little bit north, as well as all the way west to just past High Prairie. So we're really excited about that portion of our project as well. And we're just starting to work on some really interesting projects, getting a lot of different grant applications in while we can, and developing a few different programs that might be able to help our region in the scope of economic development. So I kind of wanted to share some of the projects we're looking at running, share with you how you might be able to get involved in the future and how it might benefit our region. So I'll just jump right in. And then if you have questions, you just can interrupt me or wait till the end. It doesn't matter to me. So Hyperdrive, this is actually an event we put on last year, and this is the second annual occurrence. So we're running Hyperdrive. It's a Women in Business Summit event. We bring in a multitude of different speakers, a multitude of different hosts who can facilitate different sessions to educate and support women in business. So we are supporting this event again this year. Right now, we're hunting for sponsors for the event, but also delegates. We're looking to get sponsors to sponsor individuals throughout the community or in the region for those who can't afford to attend these events. They're really amazing for networking. For instance, one of our local businesses, a marketing agency, got 3 different connections, built 3 new customer bases out of that event itself. And it got her a lot more connections moving forward. So it is a valuable event, and they do take way more than just education. They can build their actual business while they're at this event, which is really exciting. So we are looking for sponsors of different types. If you want to share the word, that'd be great. I have attached the package there. You're welcome to share it out and talk to your friends about the event and hopefully attend the event too, because it's well worth it. It's in Jasper, so who doesn't want to go? Yeah, next on the list is the Youth Opportunities Unencumbered. So this is a youth program that Community Futures is looking to put on. And the funding comes from the federal government through the Youth Employment Skills Strategy Program, the YES program. The funding application has closed, but we did get a grant application in. And what the heart of this program is it's an employment program. It's incentivizing employers to employ these youth, as well as offering wraparound services to youth to help them become more employable or help them get to the point where they can secure better employment in the future. The program that is really closely related to the program that we're running now called the CAWD program, Community Action for Workforce Development, very similar build, but this one is focused on youth. The youth definition federally is 15 to 30 years of age. The program, we're hoping to get about 120 youth workers placed into jobs over the span of the program. I applied for 4 years of funding, as well as other wraparound supports and services for those individuals during the entirety of the program. We're really hoping we get this one, crossing our fingers, but I won't be surprised that we might not receive it. This is quite a big grant. I applied for about 4.2 million to cover this program for the region. How you can support this program or how you can get involved is, first, I want to thank you. Your economic development officer did offer a letter of support for the program, not offering anything tangible from the town of Slave Lake. We only just wanted a letter supporting that you think this project will be great for your region. In the future, though, how you can get involved is, if we do get the grant approved, is to help us market it, help us get the word out to the youth, help get employers engaged in the program, and eventually, in the end, is to engage with it yourselves, as many of you are employers. The next one, unless I'll break for a breath. No. Okay. Proposal for future leadership. This is the Future Leadership Youth Program. It's a FLY program. So this is another Canadian federally funded program. It is through Canada Service Corps, and this one's really interesting. This is a program that we're applying for, and what it does is it helps fund initiatives within the region, volunteer initiatives from youth, and they are youth-led. The initiatives each are granted $5,000 to complete. The initiative, the funds cannot be used towards wages or subsidies for these youth. It's basically for the project. And the cool thing is the initiatives can be anything. It could be a garbage cleanup. It could be a cultural event. It could be an inclusive event. It could be a little society. The options are pretty endless. The purpose of our program, utilizing this fund and utilizing this opportunity, is to really get youth to engage with the community and to engage with their surroundings, in hopes that they'll build a connection with the community and stay within the community, because they'll find value and feel valued within the community. What I applied for is I applied to have about 160 initiatives throughout the entire region, $5,000 per initiative each, over a course of 3 years. Excuse me. And so, and then with about 800 youths for the entirety of the project involved in the program over the lifespan. Because each project doesn't have to be one youth per initiative. It could be multiple youth per initiative. This program would be amazing for a region. There's no question about it. It would help engage our young people. It would help improve some of the services and offerings that we have to our region. And there's no question. So how I'd want the council get involved is, this one's really interesting. If we do get approved for this grant, there could be initiatives that deal with learning about municipalities and how they work, learning about how councils work, engaging with you in different ways with council work. And that's one way I'd like the town to see a possibility of opening up the doors if we were to be approved. And if I were, then I will send a proposal. Another way is just sharing about the program once we are approved and sharing about the excitement that you have for the region and why youth should be involved.
Quick question on that one. So that one there, that many of them, are we able to stack those together or do they have to be distinctly different?
Yeah.
Can
So
a couple of use go together and do a project for 10,000 or?
no, so each initiative has to be its own separate grouping, its own separate project. That being said, there is a discussion of the idea of pairing things. So for instance, if you're phase 1 and there's phase 2 and there's phase 3 of each individually distinct objectives, but they come one after the other, there's a possibility of doing something like that, where they can help support another project that comes away later, if that makes sense.
Can you provide more detail about the selection criteria for these 160 initiatives that will receive?
Yes, of course. So part of the program, I should start off with part of the program is we start with training. So each individual who is interested in the program has to go through a full training program to understand how to manage, set up projects, run projects, how to apply for funding for projects, how to propose the project entirety, managing the budget of it and marketing, et cetera, et cetera. From there, they take their learnings and then they are assessed based on the criteria that they've learned through the program. Once they've created a project plan that is cohesive and that we feel through the criteria that we've determined would be successful, then they get to be approved and they can move forward on the project. Does that answer your question?
A little bit. And what type of projects are going to be eligible and how will they be chosen, right?
Okay, so it will be first come, first serve, first of all. So it'll be those who come forward and get through the program and make their applications known. After that, the criteria for them to be approved in regards to what type of project they are, it's pretty open. The criteria, though, that we've set is, I don't have it all here, but I'll give you what's off the top of my mind. The criteria that we've set in the program is it's going to be focusing on inclusiveness, multicultural celebration. It's also going to include anything with reconciliation will be top of line. Environmental will be top of mind. Innovation will be top of mind. Community engagement will be top of mind. I believe those are the 6 that are the ones that we're really looking for, and that will be shared with each individual before they even get through the program, so they understand, okay, well, what's the more likeliness of getting this approved?
Keep going.
One more question, sorry. So how will this program ensure that it reaches and engages with underdeserved and Indigenous youth? What specific outreach strategies are planned around this?
So if we are approved, the goal for Community Futures to get out there is to start with delegations with the Indigenous groups throughout the region, as well as with any other groups that we have in municipalities. We would have a marketing campaign, both on social media and paper, to make sure that we're getting out to different demographics that we might not reach otherwise. And then we're also looking to engage with all the school systems that we have within our region, which we have a very close tie to already, which is exciting.
Nice.
Okay, next one. Sorry.
Go on.
Okay, so the next, I'm going to go to this one first. So the next one we're looking at is a possibility and opportunity program. So this is a program that's going to be, if we get approved, funded through the Small Community Opportunity Program through the Government of Alberta. We're really looking at this program to build out what Community Futures already does well, and we're trying to do even more. And so what we're looking to do and achieve is to bolster our entrepreneurship capacity within the region, elevate our workforce skills, helping with economic development through the region as well. And how we're planning to do it is going down here through entrepreneurial training. So offering a few more training courses throughout the region to help entrepreneurs grow their capacity. some of the things that we've learned at Community Futures is that the capacity of a lot of business owners, even experienced ones, they are missing certain areas that are key to sustaining themselves, such as a basic skill of understanding how to read profit loss statements or your year-end statements. Those skills are crucial to making sure that your business can survive and continue on. So we're recognizing some areas that we really want to focus on helping businesses and bringing in more partners and bringing more people to speak on those things moving forward in the year of the program. Workforce training, we're looking to do specialized workforce training. Already Community Futures is about to launch BASE finally, thank God. So BASE is a community service, it's a customer service training program that we're looking to run, or we're not looking, we are going to be running. So we're using this program to help bolster that program, get businesses signed up in a low-cost manner that doesn't cost them hopefully anything, so that we can get baseline customer service skills up to par, especially for new workers in the field or people who haven't had the chance to learn about different customer service skills. That skills training will expand beyond multiple different industries. So if there's retail section, there's restaurant, there is even secretarial work, there is email etiquette, there's phone etiquette, there's quite a few different aspects of the program that we're looking to really get out there. Organizational support network. So we recognize that that our region, because this is regional, not just Slave Lake, that our region lacks business support networks. We have a chamber here, and it is still strong, but in High Prairie region and surrounding areas and the MD of Opportunity, they need those supports as well. And we want to make sure that we're finding ways to help bring those networks together and build them strong so they can help support each other. And so that was another goal of this project. We already do entrepreneurial coaching and mentoring, but we want to bolster that program, offer better services, improve our service line, improve our coaching methods, and find ways that we can do a better job. And that's what we want to use this for as well. And then entrepreneurial youth training. We're right now trying to rewrite our youth programs in the schools, and we really want to develop them further so that we can offer more to our school divisions and to our youth in regards to entrepreneurial training. If you're curious about our programs, there's Head Start in Business, Lemonade Day, and those programs and Adulting 101 are the courses that we currently do within the school system. And then last but not least, as the regional growth team. This one's close to my heart and very close to our new ideals of supporting economic development in the region. It's focused on developing a team of people in the Community Futures office that support economic development or economic development activities throughout the Community Futures region. We're not looking at this point to take over economic development to anyone, but we really want to be a support, a crutch, what's the word? Resource. Thank you. We want to be a resource to help support those groups and to help support municipalities and agencies on developing further. How we are looking to do that is by hiring an EDO that's local and who will stay with us and to develop different initiatives, and hiring a grant writer or having someone do grant writing on behalf of different organizations. The goal of the program overall, if we do get funding for this, is to have at least 8 to 10 initiatives developed over a year for the different communities and different municipalities and different organizations that wish to engage with us and use our services. Do skills training, find skills training that will help those different agencies or groups get the skills they need to further their economic development abilities. So maybe grants writing or maybe proposal writing, et cetera, et cetera. We want to help with strategic planning. Community Futures already does strategic planning sessions and does support strategic planning, but we really want to bolster those services and show the worth of what that means to an organization, whether it be for-profit, nonprofit, municipality, or whatnot. We also want to provide proposal writing and project planning support. So whether that means helping different groups write an actual project plan, doing some of the study work to help them get what they need to get that project underway and to support it, or it could just be writing a letter of support for that program. The idea is, in the end, is we intend for this offering and we intend this program, the regional growth team, it's a 1-year grant, but it's our test. It's a way for Community Futures to test the waters to see if this is something that we can continue to offer in the future, which we really do hope to, and to find ways that we can really bolster some change for our whole region in a positive way. Any questions?
No.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in, and what I'm hearing is that you have a lot of things on the go and that you're gonna involve our active team and council when you have specific asks for support,
Mhm.
right? Instead of the general pool of, yes, we support all of it.
You already support
That's
them,
what I
so
mean,
thank
we
you.
support all the things, But it's when you have specific asks or specific ways for partnership. I think it's great that we have all these different programs coming up. I would suggest reaching out to, if you haven't already had communication with Alberta North Central Alliance. A lot of their communities are within your region. And I think there could be some partnerships there, as I know there's an economic development focus too.
Perfect. If I may just share a couple quick things, just quick, I promise. Okay, so one of the programs that we will be running pretty soon here, I'm applying for, is through the ethnocultural grant through Government of Alberta. Right now, we're looking at applying for a program that helps support ethnocultural groups and developing more awareness and engagement with different ethnocultural groups throughout the Slave Lake region. We are going to be looking for a letter of support very quickly. So I'll be sending that your way within the next day. All I'm looking for is support, no money, nothing else, just say yay.
We're not that scary.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but I will need a letter if you are interested in partnering with us on that program. I will need it tomorrow, so I will send you it tomorrow and hopefully get it back tomorrow, so I can get it in there. If not, after is fine too, but it just helps with the grant writing application process. We'll also be applying for an Alberta Innovates program to help bolster our youth programming and our young adult training programs for entrepreneurial training. But that's it. I will leave you alone. We're working on lots. Oh, and I'll drop off some CAWD flyers because that's the program we're running now. And if you haven't signed up, you are missing out.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Counselor Adams. I would like a motion to accept the report. Thank you, Counselor Adams.
I guess I should have listened. I'd like to make a motion to accept all of that as information, please.
All right,
Thank
any
you.
further discussion? Call the question, those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Okay. We'll just wait for the pamphlet distribution. Thank you. Okay. We are on to our report portion. Jason, you are up first.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to present the results of the Community Childcare Survey. The purpose of this survey was to collect information that will be used to inform decision-making around the development of childcare in our community. Many of the questions in this survey were geared towards gauging potential demand for childcare in town. A little bit of background. One important definition is the definition of regulated childcare. This refers to childcare that is delivered through a licensed childcare center or regulated family childcare home. In order to be regulated, a center or home must meet and maintain the requirements under the Early Learning and Childcare Act and associated regulations and related policies. Regional childcare services staff regularly monitor and support regulated childcare services to ensure these standards are maintained. Assistance is available to help offset the costs of childcare for eligible families under the Government of Alberta's Childcare Subsidy Program. Eligible families can apply for childcare subsidies if they have children aged 0 to grade 6, enrolled in licenses family facility-based program. So this would be a daycare, out-of-school care, preschool, family day home program overseen by a licensed family day home agency, or group family childcare center. Subsidy rates vary based on the child's age, family income, the childcare program, and the number of hours a child attends each month. So for discussion tonight, in your agenda package, you will see a PowerPoint presentation. I will direct council to that presentation now. In the report, there is a condensed version of the results, but I will be going through the PowerPoint presentation. So the first slide in that presentation is a visitor summary. So the total visits to our Engaged Slave Lake site was 517. The max visitors per day was 172. New registrations on engagedslavelake.ca was 50, which is mostly attributable to this survey. Aware visitors, so these are visitors that visited the project page, equals 448. Informed visitors, so these are visitors that either participated in the survey or visited multiple project pages. So in this case, we had 2 project pages, an information page and a survey page. So that means all those folks clicked on the survey, they just chose not to fill it out. Engaged visitors, so these are the visitors that actually filled out the survey. Was 80, it was actually 84. I got 1 late entry, but I didn't report that entry because it came after the deadline. 74 respondents, or about 89%, currently have or plan to have children under the age of 12 years living in the home. So going on to the next slide, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the questions were gauged towards gauging potential demand. So 48 respondents, about 60% currently require childcare for children under the age of 12. It then goes on to ask how many in each age group. 29 respondents indicated they have 1 child, age 0 to 2 years, that requires care. 1 respondent indicated they have 2 children in that age group, which brings the total that require care between 0 and 2 at 31. 19 respondents indicated they have 1 child, age 2 to 5, that requires care. 3 respondents indicated they have 2 children in that age category for a total of 25. 22 respondents indicated they have 1 child, age 5 to 12 years. That requires care, and 5 respondents indicated they have 2 children in that age category that require care for a total of 32. Next slide. The question was asked, why do you require child care now or in the next 2 years? They had the option to check all that applied. And by a vast majority, the reason they require child care now is because they are currently employed. And in second place, they wanted their children to socialize with other children. The other responses were all relatively low. Next slide. I know I'm going through this pretty quick, so please stop me at any time if you have questions. What childcare arrangements, if any, have you made for your children right now? Once again, check all that apply. So interestingly enough, the top answer was childcare is not needed at this time. The second one was private arrangements in their own home, so a babysitter, a nanny, or a relative. Third place was care at a regulated childcare facility, either part-time or full-time. And then next was other. So when looking at the detailed responses for other, a lot of the respondents were relying on other family members to watch over their kids, or they were actually bringing their kids to work. And looking at the individual responses, I think there's a lot of hardworking grandparents out there that are responsible for childcare right now. And then the next was care at an unregulated family childcare home. So this would be a private day home operator that's not regulated. The next question was their satisfaction level with their current arrangements. So the satisfaction level for their current arrangements, 24 said extremely satisfied, 17 said somewhat satisfied, 15 were neutral, and 20 were either somewhat dissatisfied or extremely dissatisfied with their current childcare arrangements. Next slide. Question was asked, would you prefer center-based care, i.e. care in a child care center, or family child care? 58 so the child care preference. So if you look at the pie chart below, almost, what's that? 64, 72. Almost 3/4 of our respondents would say they would use a child care center or a family care home, and 28% were no preference. Out of the 58 respondents indicated they would use a regulated childcare facility if it became available. 18 respondents indicated they would not use the facility. 14 respondents indicated, or about 17.5% indicated they are currently on a waiting list. And about 83% or 66 respondents indicated that they are not currently on a waiting list. Type of childcare required. So the question was asked, if you indicated you would use a regulated childcare facility, what type of care would you require? Check all that apply. So the vast majority said they would require full-time care, with second and third going to after-school care and care on school cancellation days or holidays. Of those respondents that indicated they would not use a regulated facility, 8 indicated they didn't require care, 7 indicated it would be too expensive, and 5 indicated they would prefer to keep the arrangements they had or preferred in-home care. Next slide. Once again, gauging potential demand. Which day would you need childcare? An overwhelming majority of respondents indicated that childcare was needed Monday to Friday. 29 respondents indicated they needed childcare during school holidays and or summer breaks. So if of those that responded, they needed childcare from Monday to Friday, what hours would you need that childcare? The majority were normal working hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Second place, start time earlier than 8 a.m. and third place, a pickup time later than 5 p.m. That was also tied with after school care as well. Next slide. So the general question was asked, do you support the town of Slave Lake operating its own regulated childcare facility? 54% of respondents strongly support the town of Slave Lake operating its own regulated childcare facility. 13% somewhat support, 9% are neutral, 9% somewhat do not support, and 15% strongly do not support. Once again, this survey was geared towards parents of children, and about 90% of these respondents are children. So as you'll see further in my report, if we want to do further consultation, feedback was received from residents that we need to make the next survey a little bit more inclusive, which we will do. And it will ask questions like this of trying to gauge the level of support amongst the community. Would you like to be contacted with more details regarding childcare options in the community? 43% said yes, and 57% said no. In terms of the economic development impact on the lack of childcare spaces in our community, the question was asked, how significant is, so these questions were geared towards business owners or folks that have employees. So the question was asked, how significant is the lack of childcare in the town of Slave Lake a barrier to labor attraction and retention efforts for your business? 53% of respondents said it was an extremely significant barrier. 29% said it was a somewhat significant barrier. 5% were neutral. 5% was somewhat insignificant barrier. And 8% said it was an extremely insignificant barrier. On the right-hand side of the slide, has the lack of childcare in the town of Slave Lake prevented you from expanding your business or operations? 39% yes, it has prevented them from expanding. And 61% no. Have you lost employees due to the lack of childcare in the town of Slave Lake? 34% said yes, and 66% said no. On this survey, there was a couple of opportunities for residents to provide additional comments or general feedback. I've listed every single comment that I received on these slides. I'm not going to go through them all. You will notice a couple of themes, however. A couple of the themes are concern over potential taxes increases, concern over being able to find qualified staff for the facility, potential conflict of interest concerns, would rather see it privately operated, concern this will compete with existing regulated facilities, and the acute need for more childcare spaces in the community. Given time constraints tonight, I don't think I'll go through those comments. I'll let you guys read those at your leisure. But there are about 4 pages of additional comments provided by the community, most of which fall under those themes I just identified. Questions?
I've just read the majority of the comments here, and the vast majority are in, just for summarization purposes, the vast majority are in support of working towards a childcare solution. A lot of the comments are saying if there is no additional spaces that they won't be able to either keep their job or their spouse do so. There's quite a significant amount of commentary there. Any questions for Jason in the report? Counselor
Well,
Hughes?
I kind of have a question about timing. So, I mean, when we first kind of came up with this concept or wanted to kind of pull on the thread there wasn't an announcement about a private business coming and operating a daycare. Do you know, like, when this was originally posted, right? That wasn't common knowledge, I'm assuming? Like, I'm just kind of wondering
Yeah,
on
so
a
this-
timeline.
This was posted directly before the Christmas break. I think it was the Thursday morning. Jeff came into my office and asked that a survey put out, and it got reviewed and it was out Friday morning. So that would have been the 22nd.
However, it did continue past the time from when there
Yeah,
was an article in the
survey
paper
results
about it.
survey results closed on last Wednesday, and we made several social media posts indicating that the survey was going to close on Wednesday, January 18th, with results presented tonight at the regular meeting of council.
And there was
Okay.
there was an article in the paper
Yeah.
about the other daycare provider prior to the survey results closing.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And I would say, further to that, I'd say about half the responses came kind of before the Christmas break or during Christmas break, and then about half of the responses came after the Christmas break.
Counselor Ferguson.
There's no other questions. I'll make a motion to accept this report as information.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. And that is carried. Thank you, Jason. Okay. That makes on to Roland, boring bylaw number 1.
I don't have the hard shell, so I'll just make sure I got the right bylaw, because we got a couple here tonight. So by borrowing bylaw 21-2023.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I'm just bringing back the bylaw. We already had first reading. So tonight's report here is coming back for second and third reading. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I will just kind of update some of the information that was presented last time. So the amounts that we're looking to borrow is still $685,000 over a 10-year period through the province of Alberta. The available debt limit for the town of Slave Lake as of December 31st, 2022 is 23 million. Provincial applications for borrowing are required to be in by April 30th, 2024, with an issue date of June 17th. So in the prior report, we had January 31st with an earlier date for that. We've pushed that back a little bit to get in the required readings. Prior to receiving funding from the province, administration will be bringing an interim financing bylaw to temporarily borrow funds from a bank until provincial funding is received. In accordance with our advertising bylaw, administration advertised on the town's website for a period of 14 days. After the 14-day advertising period, there was a 15-day petition period in which residents had the opportunity to petition the bylaw. Administration has received no petitions. Administration has fulfilled the advertising and waiting period to pass second and third reading of the borrowing bylaw. And a copy of the borrowing bylaw is attached along with the advertisement that was posted. And with that, I guess the floor is open for second and third reading.
Counselor Adams,
No one wants to kick this off.
you go ahead.
Okay, so I understand that this is just a boring bylaw, but it does come to the root of the fact of whether or not we want to move forward with providing a stabilized area for not only daycare, but other nonprofit kind of options and utilize that space that just under 6,000 square feet with the possibility of adding another 2,000, bringing it up to nearly 8,000 square feet. I struggle with this one. I understand that it is additional money. I understand though that to offset that, we are trying to make this as cost neutral as possible. By being cost neutral, this will also bring the value down below market rates for renting if they were trying to go out in the public themselves. So we're essentially subsidizing a little bit from what we could make in market. For something is what I feel critical to our community as daycare. This is a needed facility. I do struggle with it having the timing. Because at the time we decided this, there was absolutely no other options, massive waiting list. Now we've got a new business coming into town that potentially could expand this offering and long-term, hopefully. Do we still move forward? And I realize I'm putting forward more questions than answers. But this is where I'd like to see your guys' points of view and where this discussion can go forward. Is we all realize that this isn't necessary for the community, but where does it weigh in as far as cost and commitment from the town long-term? There, did I ramble enough?
It was
Sorry.
good rambling. I like it. I will play in that space there with my opinion on those questions since. Oh, it is on. Yep, we're on. I've been a proponent of pursuing this daycare option. I don't think that this has been any secret with regards to my opinion on it. Looking back, when I first needed childcare 9 years ago, if there wasn't a space available at the daycare, I would have had to move from the community. And that was almost a decade ago. Thankfully, when I went, there was a space. Current wait list, there's many individuals who have been on for longer than 18 months. And even though the wait list has reopened, they're still on there. So this is a problem. It is a problem for the reality is that the majority of parents are both working. And that there is no one, especially if you don't have family in the community to provide childcare. I think we need to focus a significant amount of effort here. And we found a suitable building. We have interested individuals. There is a potential to make it cost neutral because we've discussed about having the other nonprofit groups and other potential kids sports groups also rent out the space. So it does become multi-purpose. It is close to both schools. There are some challenges with regards to sidewalks and things that can be addressed, but in my opinion, currently, I do think the risk is worth the reward here. And I don't really want to sit on our hands and do nothing when it is a huge need and it is something that we can address as a council. So that's where I'm at currently. Councilor Grantlich.
Okay, I'll go. I agree with the mayor and Councillor Adams on a lot of what both of you said. But with this new daycare provider coming in and committing to 50 some spaces, I think that's going to eliminate a lot of the wait list. And I don't know that the wait list is accurate. Those aren't our numbers. We don't know who's waiting, who's left over. So I'd love to see this new provider come in and see where it goes from there. And maybe in 6 months or a year, and I understand there's an option that we might lose this building, but it might spawn something different where we are looking at something bigger and better with multi-uses, extra offices. We're looking at the MRC right now saying we need more space. Maybe there's a long-term plan that comes out of this and it's a small hurdle in the road and we let someone else who's done this for a living take a stab at it. Because right now we have an expression of interest. We don't even have anything signed, sealed and delivered. So we're putting a lot of hopes into that coming to fruition. And if they didn't come in to do their own, I'd still be on board with trying to do this because we do need extra spaces, but we're taking a bunch of extra spaces with them coming in and trying it on their own first. So I'm not for it at this point. When I was a big proponent for it at first, I'd like to take a back seat now and see it play out over a period of time here and reassess in the future.
Councilor Moallem.
I love all the comments so far. When I first started, I think I was all over this idea. I really did like it. I think as a town, we made sure that our community realized how important the daycare issue was. And if we look at it, that we do have an investor in town that decided to open up more spaces. I think as a town, we could say, hey, that's a win for us that we've, created more spots for within our community. So I see it as the town has maybe done this is a win for us just by having an investor in town move on. We've given them all the information that they need to make to take the risk and to make a strong decision.
I worry that I believe they're opening up 38 spaces, the 38 spaces that it won't be enough. And I understand, I do I do hear the comments about having a long-term plan, and I get that, and I get the wait and see approach. Given the previous wait list numbers, I just don't think 38 is enough, and in my mind, if you don't have 5 open spaces that are available at any given point in time, I still think we're doing a disservice. Counselor Adams?
Oh, to counter that a bit, I mean, yeah, the 38 spots you're claiming. That's on phase 1. There's 2 phases to it, so it's the impact by next school year for lack of a better timeline, will still be full run, right? So it'll be double that.
They're
Or
going,
close to,
what are they going to, 60?
possibly. I don't know if I want to quote their numbers.
No, yeah, because I don't know either.
Because
I'm
I
just
don't know.
asking.
But there's a 2-phase approach to it, is my understanding. So to put our decision based on 38, I don't think is accurate. I do feel we need this. I wish we had more options in town, because I do like what Councillor Gramlich has said, with a delay to see how this reacts. Give it time for the market to absorb it and to see where we're at. And then play in this field again. The challenge I have with it is, does this. Now, the building will work for us. It's not in an ideal location. It's not an ideal building. But there's no other building that I can identify in this community that fit to the level of this. I mean, the other ones are just really, really small. So if we did have something, and I like what you said as well, Councillor Gramlich, as far as being able to work this into future plans, and I wish we had the foresight to do that in the past. But I don't foresee us being able to put a massive project that's of scale that includes a swimming pool and business frontages and daycares and whatever out there until, well, probably after I leave the community.
Some other larger projects, our CMP detachment, some other things that are also on the table at the same time that, you know, the desire that we've heard from the community for a new pool is also present. And I agree with Councillor Adams. I think we would be remiss to look at the construction of a new pool facility with additional other spaces without that. You can't operating, we've learned from previous town construction that operating things in a silo doesn't end up
We need to
working.
overbuild.
Yeah, we need to overbuild would be the simple term of that. Councillor Hughes.
I agree with a lot of the comments made tonight. I think I'm kind of possibly leaning to more towards what Councillor Grumlick has said at this point in time as well. I mean, we all know and we can agree that there's several barriers to our local industry here in terms of labor, and that childcare element is very necessary here for sure. And I do like that we wanted to take a proactive approach and kind of, you know, seize an opportunity to engage in that and grow some spots and kind of do what we can do as a town to benefit, you know, the young families in this community, because we do have a lot of young families here. But now I think for me, since the beginning of that to where we are now with the circumstances changing with this private operator coming in, it does kind of change my mindset on the current situation. I know that it may not hit the full wait list, like to your point as well, but then to the other point, we don't know how accurate that is either. And so I find myself very torn right now. I do like the idea of Councillor Grumlick's suggestion of something in the future that you know, is a little bit more pre-planned here and that we can work towards, but I'm not sure if this is the best path forward at this current moment, given the many other projects that we also want to achieve.
Councillor Moale.
I think this decision makes a lot of sense right now. For right now, this makes a lot of sense. But when you buy a building, I think, you know, this is, you know, we got to be looking more long-term, 10 years or after. And one of the things I think about is, you know, we are doing a service to the community by welcoming, you know, community groups and getting really good people into this facility. But are we comfortable if things don't work out to enforcing leases, to maybe do the other side of what a landlord does as well?
We do already
Which is-
do that with the legacy building.
It is tricky though, you know,
Yeah,
that's the hard
understood.
part.
But I just to clarify to your point, and it doesn't really matter, everyone has their each side that they're on here, is that we already have a building that the Legacy Corporation does that with, so we aren't, so renting space to leaseholders isn't something that is new for the town. That is something that we are well versed in. Mr. Ferguson.
So I'm much along the lines of what Councillor Gramlich said as well. So I was originally in support of this and in support of allocating a reasonable amount of funds to do so. But however, between the first reading of this and now, it has come to my attention that everybody knows the news that a private operator has leased space and is in the process of helping fill that gap. So I understand that administration has spent a substantial amount of time getting this all together, and I appreciate all the groundwork that went into it. However, with this new private daycare development, I am no longer in support of this, and I don't think as a town that we should be in competition with something that private industry is already undertaking.
Councillor Adams.
Just your last comment there, when you're saying something a private industry is undertaking, you mean a landlord or you're meaning operation of a daycare?
Well, I guess both. I mean, you'd mentioned previously that there would be some degree of subsidization by the town likely.
Well, we're subsidizing the fact we're not charging market rent. It's not money out of pocket. We're going.
It's still subsidization though.
And we've already proven that, I'm not meaning to get into an argument, but we've already proven we do that with Legacy Center. We substantially subsidize that one at cost. And that's not the same.
Yes, but it was never meant to be that way.
No, it was not meant to be. And that's where
after.
like I said in my opening, where I was a little struggling with the idea, is we do have the intent of this not having a cost. But at the same time, the Legacy was that way too. Like I said, I go back and forth on this in a conversation. It's crazy because I believe we do need daycare within our community. We have needed daycare within our community since I had kids. And it was a struggle then. You're finding unlicensed people to just take care of your kids so you could have somebody, so you could go to work. The cost was obscene. And that hasn't changed. It's still a big cost. The federal government has thankfully stepped up and has dropped this down to $10, but whether or not that continues, I'm not sure. And then this is a model that enables people to go into the workforce, which we struggle having a workforce in Slave Lake. So there is that side of it. So if we're still having a backlog in the neighborhood of 60, maybe it is still within our due diligence here to provide that accessibility.
Agreed in many respects, but we won't know what that backlog will be until this operator is fully up and running and we see what gets cleared of the backlog. Because right now, my understanding is some people, they put their names on the waiting list, not even just to be on the waiting list because they know it's going to take so long. And they're not even ready to put their kids into childcare. They just know there's a long wait. So we're not going to know the true effect of it until the other operator is up and running.
I agree. We're not going to know the true effect until we actually see, and I would like to tag this out. I just don't know if we're going to have an option in the future necessarily as easily. It may take 5 years before we actually have an option for a building. Because there's no way we could build a building for this price. I know there were comments in that thing saying we're crazy, we could build this. No, you could not build that building for that price. There's no way.
Yeah,
So-
a little bit of background on that. Administration did look into the most cost-effective options because there was mention of building on the old daycare site and building on other land or purchasing land. And the most cost-effective option was to build and potentially renovate this existing building. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to.
Yeah, put that out there.
Yeah.
Where was I? The other part about the backlog, and we won't know. And people are putting their names on the list just to be on the list even when they don't have kids. At the same time, people aren't putting their name on the list even though they need to because they know there's no point. So, I mean, I'm not comfortable doing, see, I'm going to swing again. I'm not comfortable doing an investment in something when I don't have all the facts in front of me that I can make an informed decision. Especially, and I know it seems like a small amount of money when we consider the grand scheme of things and our total asset value that we have as a community. But still, it's a lot of money that we're committing that is public money. Yeah.
I don't know which way that went at the end of this.
What does the end sounds mean?
Which way are you at now? Counselor.
I-
Malum?
Uh, The other thing is whether the town buys the building or we don't buy the building, someone is still available. We've told the community what the need is. Someone could still, if it's this new contractor, someone could still move in there and open a business, whether the town owns it or an independent person, our business owner in our community. So I
But
think
the-
we've
the
made it
key is
aware.
that they aren't. This building has been available for a very long time. Childcare.
But now the information's out there of how important it is. I don't know if maybe people knew before. But the town
That
is,
no one knew that we needed childcare?
well, I think we've emphasized it and we said this is one of the top steps in housing are the top two priorities. We've heard it from industry.
I would counteract that. When all of us ran on this election and even on the by-election, there were 4 things that people talked about. Housing, childcare, splash park, homeless shelter. Those are the 4. And everyone sitting at this table mentioned every single one of those things in all of our campaign speeches. So just that we did, I don't believe that people weren't aware of it. That's the only point I'm arguing here. I think it's been a need for a long time. So assuming that we're gonna have private enterprise come in and save the day, I don't believe that regardless of the way this decision goes tonight, I don't believe you're going to have a influx of private enterprise coming in to solve the problem for you. I personally don't believe that's gonna happen. Counselor Gramling.
I agree, there's a need, because I talked to industry and the doctor, everyone would like childcare for their children, but those are the people I'm talking to, and some of us are. If there's such a need, why hasn't the current, daycare expanded and took us up on something like this? And then also, why isn't the private sector popping up rapidly, right? But I do agree there is a need, but where is this backlog of people wanting to provide for this need?
Because when you're looking at purchasing power of a building, that an organization that offers stability such as the town is able to do something like that. Nonprofit groups such as Legacy Childcare, and I don't speak to know any of their financials or any specifics, but I would assume that a nonprofit group would struggle to get financing on such a capacity, and there is no room for current expansion in their current space.
So why wouldn't they jump onto this?
Well, that would be a discussion for their board.
Well, that's, and then the other part is.
It's
goes back
also a
to what
significant amount of work.
Councillor Ferguson said, so now the town's subsidizing a private business. Right?
Whoever's,
We gotta-
whoever
We
would
gotta
go
buy
into
this
the
building
space.
to make it happen.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I just was gonna add to that, your comment there, the reason why you might not have seen is typically nonprofits don't have anything to gain from expanding their service. There's no incentive for doubling the workload or doubling the capacity. They're not in it for the profit, right? So typically that's one of your responses. And 2, this other significant barrier is capital. That's a significant barrier for this industry to get into, especially when you're talking about the acquisition of a space and leasehold improvements or whatever else is the case. That could be the barrier that is stopping, it's not necessarily dictating that there isn't a need or isn't a desire or an opportunity, but a barrier to entry of that.
Are we ready to make a motion and have discussion on the motion?
Counselor Adams. Counselor Adams is not.
Okay, one more. So running a scenario through my head. We've got an expression of interest. We want to move down this piece. I do, to counteract the one statement about where we should belong, whether or not we should be subsidizing a private company. I feel this is identified as a critical need within our community and justifies a subsidy. And maybe it's subsidies, not the word I should be using. It's offering it at cost as opposed to profiting from a critical need in our community. The worst case scenario, we've got this expression of interest. It all falls apart after we buy the property. We're now into the property. We own an asset that, in my opinion, we got for a very decent price. We own that asset now. We can also utilize it as a multi-use facility for other nonprofits that need space and are always struggling to secure space. So with minimal input from us as far as dollar value to leasehold improve. so we can still get a use out of it. It still has a value to the community that's important. Because whether it's gymnastics or dance or taekwondo, any of those, they're hard done by. You look at how much this community has supported hockey. We have an entire MRC built around hockey. So maybe it's time we took a portion, a minuscule amount of what we pay in that in a year and put it to a new building. Like, I kind of talked myself into it now. I think we can utilize that space if worst case scenario, it falls apart. I think it is still a value to this community.
Counselor Gramlich.
Okay, I would say, so you're buying it for a recreation facility then? Or that's just like an emergency plan?
Mike's on.
Saying worst case scenario.
Well, I know worst
I'm
case.
saying if we don't get the daycare going through, like that's our goal is to provide these spaces and have the daycare. But I'm saying, I'm trying to figure out worst case, this whole thing falls apart and it's terrible. What are we left
In
with?
his brain.
Yeah, I would rather make a plan and build a proper facility for something like that.
I agree too, but
And
how
just chuck
quickly are
them
we
in there
gonna
and
get
say,
that?
Well, I don't know.
How long did it take for us to get the MRC? Know how long it took to get to college?
Well, let's start making a plan rather than just.
I'm all
throwing
for
things in
that too, but
places
for
and-
us to even go down a place where we get a pool and we're dropping $50 million on a facility. As opposed to 685,000.
Like, I feel like maybe it's at the end of a lot of our facilities and stuff's lifespan, but now we're building pole sheds for operations and we're just piecemealing stuff together.
I know,
Like,
I get what you're
And I'm
saying.
not, I think it's a really good deal and I think your plan would still also work, but I'm just saying, like, what if we actually put pen to paper, and make an actual plan for that stuff and yeah, it's not happening tomorrow, but maybe it could start in 5 years, right? And then it's there. There's a plan in place rather than saying we're never gonna build a pool. We'd never have a facility like this. We keep saying never, never, never. Let's make a plan.
Well, I don't feel that buying this building would stop us from doing that plan. We should still be doing that.
It would
plan.
stop us because we'd say, well, we already have that.
No,
Those kids are in
It should not.
that building that
We've got an aging pool that's going out and let's face it, it's at the end of its lifespan. The college has no intent of ever building another one.
No,
So we have to look at that in our future plans as well. So whether or not we buy this, we have to do that. This, even at the end of the day, we can flip it around and sell it. I feel our risk is significantly mitigated by the amount of community benefit it would bring.
And I also agree that we should have this long-term plan. We need the long-term plan for things such as a future policing detachment. We need a future plan for things such as a pool that will go well beyond likely all of our times on council. And I think when we do strategic planning, there is a portion of that we're looking at where our reserves are at. And we're looking at what we're going to need to set in motion for future councils. Because unfortunately, due to the nature of municipal politics, we're all on these 4-year cycles and some of us less since we came in on by-elections. So we're all on short cycles. So we're trying to think of what can be done within our term. So I do agree. I think previous councils there's some short-sightedness there.
well, you guys have been here a little less than me and I've been here a little less than Bryce. He'll probably back me up on this. You'll probably agree with me. So let's say we get this facility and now we're putting sidewalks in, we're putting money into this, right? And we're all sitting around in that room working on capital budget and talking about this and that. Well, we're not gonna do this because we built that and dumped in $1.3 million once sidewalks are included. That could last another 10 years. Like, that's how that works. When we're gonna erase a need and that thing's not gonna get looked at again for and I'm not saying we're building something for gymnastics and dance, but it's a novel idea to start having a facility for all these other groups. We're actually not going to build that down the road. We're going to say they have that. We got to make it work. We built sidewalks. That last council spent all this money on it. That's what really happens. That way.
Councillor Adams.
Shocker.
That was a processing. No, continue.
I don't agree with that. Let's take into account this building we have right here. We built this building knowing that we had a cheaper option to go, another way to go. We could have had the Bavairs building for $1 and we didn't pick it up.
What building did we build?
Beauvair's
Oh,
built.
What you're talking about, the building we're
When we
sitting in?
built this one.
I don't know any of this history.
So we still made that choice because this was determined at that time to be the long-term beneficial decision to make. They invested the money. We've got long-term rentals and this is paid off in what? 4 years, 5 years? We're gonna see the benefit of that
Well,
in no time,
we kind of
which is
have,
great.
we kind of have the province paying this building off by rent.
Yes,
all this
I
rent,
know.
right?
So we're now gonna have that province, hopefully, ideally, would be great, paying off the swimming pool or wherever, the MRC expansion or whatever you're doing. Or if you take it into the coffers and use it as operating fund. Like there's options down the road by thinking outside of what we have right now. We need to look further. Now, this purchase of this building, I agree, not ideal in the way we're doing it. It is last minute, but we have been pressured consistently by business, big business, that this is a drastic need for the community. The doctors have lobbied saying that this is not good in the community and they need to have this. We've had lost doctors because of this. Us going in inaction, I don't think is an answer.
Counselor Hughes wants to play.
Yeah, let her go.
Counselor Hughes.
I'll be fine.
My other thought, like, I agree with what you're saying, and I think in terms of even childcare, like, obviously, that's very clear. We're gonna need that. Haven't you made a comment before, Frankie, about a particular agency? Is it healthcare that needs five spots open on a waiting list? Can you elaborate on that again? What was your?
Yeah, in talks with a few different options, a few different, not options, long day of meetings. Sorry. In talks with a few different entities, some including AHS and the hospital. They
Okay.
say if a community doesn't have these 5 spots open, that it makes attraction and retention efforts almost impossible. Because when you have a travel nurse coming in that needs childcare, or you have a nurse or a nurse practitioner, because those are some of the hardest things to recruit for,
Mhm.
and there is no childcare options, well, they're not choosing Slave Lake.
Yeah, so my other, I think, point with this that I can't help but also think about as well, that is another barrier, is the housing element though. So let's say we are okay with managing this risk and we do dump this in. Well, we still have the huge barrier of accommodation that's also happening within our community. And so I can't help but point that out and kind of wonder that as well. Like, is this really actually going to help bring those professionals here? Maybe it'll meet that need, but it may not meet the accommodation need as well.
I think
And that's-
accommodation also needs to be handled, and I think there's different ways to do that.
No, I know. I'm just saying that they do
That's a-
coincide when we're talking about industry's needs and bringing the professionals here as well.
And
And
that's
so,
why Fournier Place has also been on the strategic plan.
yes, yeah.
So that's why there are also significant decisions that were made about that, because we're trying to push things from both angles. It's a bit of a chicken and the egg scenario,
Well, it really is,
but with
yeah.
a wait list that was well over 100 and closed in August. And that's of people already living here. So we, that's not even trying to attract people. We haven't even cleared the list to attract people yet.
I'll just comment on something else. And I love the idea of daycare. This just isn't working for me at the moment with this, how it shook down, but so let's say the doctors need 5 spots. We can't hold those 5 spots,
Nope.
Yeah.
right? So what I know, whatever, but we can never hold anything for any industry.
It's not.
So that doesn't help us because it instantly fills again.
Saying oversupply.
Yeah, we
A
need,
slight oversupply.
yeah,
The
we,
ability to, if you called tomorrow, have a spot available for someone with. a
so
child.
then we need more space just to get there, just so we all know. So I don't know if this, once we don't accomplish our need, are we gonna buy another building?
Well,
But does that mean we should have no action?
No, we have action with this new provider coming in. We've got some action and I wanna see how it plays out now. That's me. I'll stop talking.
Anyone else want to say? Councilor Ferguson,
I will make a motion for discussion. I will move that council give second reading to borrowing bylaw number 21, 2023.
any further discussion? Are we ready? Oh, okay, call the question, those in favor? All those opposed? And that is defeated. So I assume there is no point in going through the remainder of the
Probably defeat the second one. and
second
then
one, and
we
then we
can-
don't need to do
We
the
could
interim.
pull the final two there. They're dependent on
Okay,
these two going
so can
through.
we, so now we're on borrowing bylaw 22-2023.
23, yeah.
Perfect, thank you. All
And-
right,
Oh.
I don't think
I
you
don't think you
need
need
to go on
any
these
extra
meetings.
details.
Just for fun, just kidding. Go.
Council-
I'll move that
Councilor-
council give second reading to borrowing bylaw number 22, 2023.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? And that is defeated. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to skip past reports D and E as they were dependent on B and C and move into flag and commemorative, but we will take a 10-minute recess. Thank you.
Recess.
Welcome back. We'll move on to the flag and commemorative lighting policy. Jeff, you're up.
Good evening. The purpose of this report is to amend the flag and commemorative lighting policy to include the hanging of banners on streetlights that are located on Main Street. On November 7th, 2023, at a regular meeting of council, there was a formal request from Dragonfly Center to hang banners in the month of May 2024. In response to this request, council tasked administration to update the flag and commemorative lighting policy to include the hanging of banners on the light poles located on Main Street. Administration has brought forward the flag and commemorative lighting policy to include the hanging of banners on the light poles located on Main Street. The policy entails the following changes. Process to include banner hanging applications, application deadline, responsibilities of approved applicants, measurement maximums, length of commemoration, and an appendix, which will be essentially the application form for the applicants and cover off issues such as liability and cost. Options before council are to approve the updated flag and commemorative lighting policy to allow the banner hanging, or to not approve the updated flag and commemorative lighting policy. Recommendations to council is to approve as presented.
Councillor Adams.
Just a quick question for you on this. What we have there now can already take a flag? We're not having to. change our hand on it.
They may, the way that this is structured is that if there's any organization is requesting to hang a banner, that they also potentially are going to be required to supply the cost or any hardware that may be required to hang the banner. That it wouldn't be a cost put on to the town. This just allows for the provision of it to happen. But the appendix and the application, the liability, there's actually quite a bit that's going to go into this, which might make this actually not an item that is going to be attractive to many, because they're potentially going to have to rent equipment to hang these banners. They're going to have to do it in a safe manner. There's going to be some liability if there's any damage caused. There's a number of steps that this may not get much usage, but at the very least, it's now included as a potential option.
Anyone else? Councillor,
So are a lot of groups thinking that our operations department is going to be going out there and hanging putting the flags up, or are they going to do it? Are volunteers going to be doing this themselves?
You know what? I believe we've only had one organization actually even entertain this as something they wish to do or wanted to do. And this will be conveyed to them should they still wish to pursue it, and any future groups moving forward. The modification is that this just wasn't even an option considered under previous policy, but here we are today.
Councillor Adams.
Okay, I'd like to move to approve the updated flag commemorative lighting policy to allow banner hanging.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Ferguson.
Yes, there is. I'm gonna sound a little bit like a broken record here. We discussed this a little bit back in November. And bear with me, so there'll be some repetition of what I've said. So with the exception of those that we currently have a land acknowledgement for, or national holidays, I've never been a fan of this policy. So, I mean, for those of you who are here, I went through and calculated how many special holidays there were in that week when we discussed this back in November. There were 65 of them that week alone. Granted, some of them were frivolous. We would likely never consider proclaiming or raising a flag or a banner or anything for those. But when those frivolous ones were removed, there were about 23 causes that week alone that could perhaps be considered legitimate causes. I don't want to be, and I don't think we should be in a position of picking and choosing. Our job is governance, and in my opinion, that is what we should stick to. The other part of this is when an entity approaches us asking for a proclamation, flag, banner raising, and we agree, we are somewhat tying ourselves to that organization or the individual requesting it. So, for example, in our correspondence, we have an entity making a request of us. While I support the cause, I don't know the history of the organization. I know nothing about their leadership, their reputation. They've been involved in any controversies. And I'm personally not comfortable tying ourselves to an organization or an individual. So, in my opinion, the policy should be limited to national holidays and those that we currently have a land acknowledgement with, or have current flag protocol with in our council chambers.
Councillor Adams.
I get you want to say that, but it has nothing to do with approving or disapproving or rejecting this. So I don't think that that's part of this conversation or should be entertained. This is strictly to add in the lighting or the flag piece and that's it. So if you want to speak against just the flag piece, I understand that, but to try and take it out of everything and what we're limiting it to, that's another bylaw that we've already dealt with.
This is about the flag though, and commemorative lighting policy. So a lot of what I
Only
said,
has to do that one piece.
what I said on the proclamation side follows through in many respects on this as well. We're discussing the policy, so.
Any further discussion to that effect? Counselor Adams, please go ahead.
I'm in favor of this, whether or not I understand where you're coming from, where you're saying you're worried about what's going to be weighted in here. But again, that is something for us to have decisions behind with administration. Whether or not we change our process and our procedure on that is one thing. That's not what our policy is. Our policy should be to represent and back up a lot of these things that are in the community, whether it is promotes inclusiveness, promotes Indigenous, promotes cancer awareness. I think there's a place for that along the street banners, and if we have to work a little harder to determine what is valid and what is not, well, then maybe we need to make that commitment. But to rule that out, to only allow the town, Canada, Alberta, the town, and one Indigenous flag, I don't think makes sense.
Counselor Gromlich.
Okay, for both gentlemen, just to get this straight, so I have it in my head. So Councillor Ferguson, you'd just like to keep this to what you just said. Say it again for me.
So essentially national holidays and the ones that we currently have a flag protocol with.
Right, and then
Chambers.
and then Councillor Adams, you would like to do it on a case-by-case basis if Councillor Min deem it
Worthy.
worthy. Okay, and I have a question for admin. Admin, how much extra work is that for you? What's your guys' feel on it? You do, is this a bunch of extra work doing this or just whatever? It doesn't matter.
Handling requests?
Yes, handling the requests. Like, is there a ton of requests coming in that you're picking through before they get to us? Would it be easier just to do what Councillor Ferguson said? Like, what's the feel from admin on this?
No, I mean, the processing of applications is relatively minor. I mean, it's usually through a form of a correspondence that makes its way to council. What I don't want to have is, I think the policy needs to be clear in what's acceptable or what's not acceptable. And I think that any sort of discretion should be executed at the council table, not administrative, as it regards to what should be what should be approved or what should not be approved, what cause is worthy and what cause is not. That should not be an administrative task. It should either be covered in policy and be specific to what those guidelines are, or discretions to be used, it should be at the council table.
Fair enough. I see it as I see both your point of view, but when I first got on council, I was happy to do the proclamations and the flag days, and then more and more come and there's two sides to every single one of them, and both sides are right often, right? And now you're picking and choosing, and it's actually causes more divide. So yeah, I'm torn on the whole thing. That is all.
Counselor Adams.
I think we spent more time talking about the flags and commemorative lighting policy than we've had requests for flags and policy to do something. So to say that we have 23 in a week, I don't think is necessarily there. There are definite things I support that involve flag raisings, and they do them, and I want to continue to do them, and I'm not prepared to have this town step backwards and not support things we've had a long time support for. And as far as what administration is advising with us, I agree. It does come to the council table, and it is up to us to make those decisions. But at the same time, the burden is on administration to properly research and ensure that they're presenting a package to us that we can make an informed decision on.
Did we have a motion on the floor? Remind me. of
There-
where
no,
I'm
there's
at.
a motion. There's any further discussion?
Okay, so we're at the any further discussion point. There is a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion other than the comments that have been presented? As I see none, call to question those in favor. All those opposed. And that is carried. Okay. Question period. Do we have any questions for administration?
Oh, you got two more. Sorry.
Pardon? There was only one motion. We're not in question period now? Okay, no questions for administration? Okay, we'll move into correspondence.
Okay, so before you is a letter dated October 20th, 2023. This letter was previously brought to council and was referred to in the previous matter under the flag and commemorative lighting policy report. The following is a request from the Dragonfly Center in regards to hanging banners. And authorization to do so, I believe. And it's in the month of May. I'm not exactly sure if the specific time frame is there. They didn't specify, but if council approves, they would be required to again fill out the appropriate application that we are now approving or that implementing in regards to the potential cost or liability, and we would take it from there if it's an approved event. Typically, we limit, flag raisings or commemorative policies, as you refer to the policy we just passed, to a period no longer than 7 days typically. And so we would attempt to work with this group to identify if that's a period of time, if they wish to proceed, what time would be applicable to them.
Counselor Adams.
Was this for the main flag up in front of the town, or were they just
No,
talking about down there?
They were asking for specifically for they want to hang banners.
Yeah, that was, okay,
Banners.
thank you
This
for
is why
clarifying.
this is being brought back. There was no motion when initially was brought forward because we didn't really have a section in the policy to cover it. Now we do.
Counselor Hughes.
I'll play a little bit on this one. So I think I would have to say that I agree with Counselor Ferguson's point from earlier that we just discussed about just too many holidays or occasions to be celebrated. This is just something new that, we're being asked for, and how many more new things will continue to come, I guess, is the question for me too. And while obviously it's definitely a worthwhile cause, I don't know necessarily that I agree that that should continue to kind of be our stance as well. And so I don't know if this is necessarily something that I want to talk about flags with. I like the idea of almost going back to the simpler ones of national holidays, and that I actually think it's much less convoluted. I think we're walking a fine line with it now, and it just is becoming over politicized and all of those other things. So I don't know if this is necessarily the road I want to keep us going down in terms of that. That's just my personal opinion.
Counselor Adams.
I struggle with a community that's not willing to back an awareness about sexual violence and prevention. Why are we doing that? This is not a Dragonfly logo saying, hey, go use these guys for counseling. This is about May is Sexual Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and the support of the community behind supporting that awareness. So I struggle when we as a group are not going to support marginalized individuals. We're not going to support things that matter within society as a whole, and all on the basis of, oh, we got to make a tough decision, or we're going to have to do that.
I guess I see that as putting a lot of weight into a flag though, right? Like that's a very broad statement to make, I suppose, in my opinion, to say that the community is not supporting it. I'm just saying from the town's perspective of government, I don't know. I think it's becoming too much and too convoluted. To Councillor Ferguson's point, I do feel that way. So it's not that the community as a whole doesn't support all these many worthwhile causes. It's just that I think we're reaching a point where we kind of need to make a decision, and these things are going to keep coming to this council. So to his point as well, I think we need to decide on what our stance is going to be moving forward, or we're just going to continue to have these conversations every single time we have a request like this.
Counselor Adams?
In the span of the last year, how many requests and flag changes have we done? One? No, two. We did
Definitely had
LGBT,
lights and other things. I'm talking generally.
LGBTQ, and we did on
Orange shirt guy, I believe we had
Yes.
the lights.
Yeah,
for it.
I'm just grouping
So-
everything though, proclamations, like everything that he was kind of
again,
saying, just to.
I think we've had one block proclamation this year.
And railway safety.
Oh, and railway safety, yes, so two. So that, you feel that that is overwhelming to the town to show support?
I think I think it's getting that way. Like, we're getting more and more new things that they like that we need to action. And so I feel that it's going to get to that point, which is why I am kind of making it that topic of conversation right now, since it was brought up again tonight. That's
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna hop in and I was gonna say, I'm actually with Counselor Adams on this one. I think as the town, I think this is an appropriate forum in order to show support that are causes that are worthwhile, and I think proactive leadership is stepping forward and demonstrating that we are in support of some of these worthwhile causes. And yes, it does involve discussion at council, and yes, it might take 15-20 minutes of our time, but personally, I don't see people rushing in the door to have these things. And as politics goes, things can change. So if we see 50 requests for May 5th for whatever reason, and we decide that, okay, now this is too much, well, we all reserve the opinion to change our minds. And I think it's if you don't have any banners, if you don't have anything, if we have an arts festival in town, if we have, so like the Fringe Festival in Edmonton, for instance, they hang banners. They have a movie festival that I can't remember the name of. It's again been a long day. They hang banners for that. So essentially we're limiting ourselves to not hanging anything. And for me, I find it, I think it's not enough. I just don't think it's enough.
I think all they were saying is they want to limit the political
Yes.
and
Not events.
and stuff. They're not saying if we did I don't know, pretend we had a Big Valley Jamboree Slave Lake, those banners they would let hang up, but they're not, they don't want the.
But then that would be perhaps a for-profit thing. So then that's okay. But then this is not. I think we should be able to discuss
Well,
this every time.
Okay, well, I don't even want to play devil's advocate, but there's a real easy thing going on in the world right now that there's two sides on. That if that came here, which flag you hanging up?
Yes, we would discuss.
Exactly. I don't want to discuss that.
That is a political statement. That has nothing to do with how we're supporting something within a community and how it goes in the
Well, you're
community.
supporting.
I'm sorry, sexual awareness, violence awareness, that is something that happens in this community. LGBTQ being marginalized, that's something that happens in this community. Being aware of our truth and reconciliation obligations, that's something that's within our community. This is the stuff we need to deal with. Whether or not I sit here and I fly an Israeli flag or Palestine, I mean, that's then a personal thing, and that is not a place we should be in. Otherwise, we should be starting to, what are we supposed to do? Start politicizing it with NDP and PC on who should win provincial and federal elections?
Well, but for
No.
many groups, some of the stuff you mentioned is politicized with that because there's two sides to it.
I think you, in a way, with your examples, for me personally, just made my argument. That's why I'm saying I feel like there is a fine line there that we are straddling, and it may be best to take a step back from that and do that recommendation so that we don't have to have that type of conversation at this table where it is highly publicized and so on. But
I think this is the place for hard conversations, and I am personally okay with having those conversations when appropriate letters such as this come forward. So that's my personal stance on it. Counselor Adams.
You make this decision, we are heading down a path, and that path is not going to be pleasant. You think having these discussions come forward the way it is now is going to be awkward? You wait till you take all that away. And this is not something I want to be part of at all, to go down that road. This is crazy, crazy.
We can have a motion or further discussion. Or we can set for information. There's multiple. What are we looking for, Jeff?
Well, I need a decision, so I'm asking for a motion. So you can make a decision through the motion, but I need.
Counselor Adams. Oh, what's that?
There's a lot of feedback.
You're gonna be angry.
I make a motion that we show support for May as Sexual Violence Awareness and Prevention Month, and approve the banner raising under the new policies.
Any further discussion? Call to question those in favor. All those opposed? And that is carried. Next letter of correspondence from the MD Lesser Slave River. Do you want, okay, I will go ahead. So we received a letter, and I'll just read it. It's short. It says, please be advised that council administration of the municipal district of Lesser Slave River number 124 have met and discussed the rural renewal stream program administration officer on several occasions on several occasions since receiving your letter dated August 22nd, 2023. It was decided on January 15th, 2024, the regular council meeting, that the MD 124 is declining the offer to participate in the rural renewal stream program. Counselor Adams.
Sorry, this might just be my ignorance here, but I wouldn't mind some clarification on this. So
Provided.
with the rural renewals stream program that is we're administrating in the area, or for Slave Lake,
Yes.
doesn't the mills and Mitsu Industrial Park, aren't they a big user or trying to advocate for this?
Yes,
Yes.
they have approached our economic development officer to be a part of this program, but
But the
since they are
MD is saying no?
correct.
Okay, I find that, wow, okay, fair enough.
We've personally been approached by 4 separate businesses that are in the MD to proceed with this, but since our council table decision was that we would offer to municipalities outside of the town of Slave Lake the offer for $10,000 in order to participate in this program. The reason why we did that was that it takes a significant portion of Jason's time, and these communities could technically administer this program on their own, but we recognized in doing all this work, the substantial level of effort it requires. So in order to compensate that time for other municipalities, that is why that decision was made previously at council. So it was offered to the MD, and obviously they have since declined. Also, I will just, for background information, I will make note that the rural renewal stream is a provincially administered program, and that it is not something that has been developed by the town of Slave Lake. And there are, I believe it's over 75 participating municipalities in Alberta currently. We were one of the early adopters, but there are more being added constantly. Councilor Gromlich?
So this is incredibly disappointing. It was almost a gift that we were gonna offer them to do it all for them, but anyway, forget it. I'm not gonna go on a rant about it. But I wonder if my colleagues here would like to maybe discuss doing it anyway, because we need those people to work at those mills and buy houses in our town and help keep everything moving, because those mills are some of our biggest employers, and I understand they're in the ND and the MD is making all the money, and it's not all about money. For them, it was apparently $10,000 was a deal breaker, but maybe we could just provide the free service, just like we provide free policing and all this other stuff all these years that they don't want to get involved in, but maybe we could just do this too, to help keep things moving out there.
I struggle with this. I think it's personally very short-sighted on behalf of the MD Council. I know that there are significant uses to this program, and we've seen that our community won't continue to exist and thrive without the use of immigration. Are just looking at Canada's population rate, we aren't growing on our own. And immigration is responsible immigration is a needed tool, and this is one of those programs. The cost versus benefit is very, very minimal cost compared to the benefit that you would be receiving. And I'm extremely disappointed in our neighbors.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. It's unfortunate that they are declining the offer. I would love to see if there is something we can do to extend some sort of help or something to the businesses in the Mitsue area, if they specifically are asking for it as well. I'd love to see if there's something that we can offer them or something we can do.
Our industry in our community is thriving right now. And you know, if one of those mills, I feel, if it ever does feel the need that it has to shut down or make the decision to shut down, it's going to be because of labor. It's not going to be because they're not selling enough. It's not because of, it's going to be because they can't find workers here. So this is really disappointing for me.
And it was referenced in an article as a immigration scheme. And I would just like to clarify that it is not a scheme, that is a provincially run program, and that like I said, I believe there's 75 at least municipalities that are participating. So it is not a new thing. It is not a unique to Slave Lake thing. Councillor Ferguson.
So the gentleman who would normally be handling this, Mr. Swanson's not here today, but Jeff, maybe you can answer it for us. Are we able to, if we do bring the MD on board, are we able to charge the employers directly, or how does that work?
There currently is a very small nominal application fee. I believe it's $100. It by no means necessarily covers the administration that's going into this.
Are we able to up that though, if their municipality hasn't partnered with us? I mean,
Yeah.
I struggle with giving it to them for free when it was such good value for the MD council, but.
I will also mention that Jason recently met with the municipality of High Prairie, and that's going through their process, and there is a potential likelihood of them joining as well. So
Sorry, can I speak again?
then Councillor Adams as
Oh,
well.
I just want to say like, so yeah, we're giving it to the MD for free, that we could. That's good, great, but like someone like, let's use Tolko as an example, right? A huge provider of jobs in our community. They're also one of the companies that sponsor every single thing the town does, or all the nonprofits do, right? So like, true, us steering some money towards something to help keep their business in operation so they can keep sponsoring our Canada Days and our concerts and our hockey teams is a very small thing. And I got very disappointed in this, but I think we could still do something for some of those businesses out there to try to stay alive.
Then Jeff.
So these companies in the MD, they are the biggest taxpayers to the MD, right?
Yeah.
Near?
We know that.
Okay, that something's got to get lobbied to them. How much effort have we put into this month? Setting you up.
Thank you.
How much have we communicated with them, trying to get them on board with this?
So the first letter was August 22nd, and since then, so we did reach out to them quite a long time ago. There was a significant delay in receiving a response back. It has been tossed back and forth between Jason and their council with regard to questions, and we just received an official decision. What's that, 5 months later? August, September, October, November, yeah, 5 months later. So they have been contacted multiple times. I know that in our intermunicipal meetings and other informal gatherings, it's been mentioned frequently, so they are well aware of this program. I hope, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they've had lots of time, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think it's, you may have one large employer, but the other ones aren't necessarily. They're small employers, small businesses, whatever the case may be, so. You know, I think it's a bit of a slippery slope as we start going down that line as to.
How much?
We're providing a service at the expense of Town of Slave Lake taxpayers to the benefit of MD of Lesser Slave River residents and businesses. It will expand.
I think we should be encouraging the MD businesses to lobby their council
Yeah.
and see how that effort goes.
In contrast, I'm not aware of the MD providing a service for town residents at no cost. Unless you
What,
can think, unless you can think of one.
Is the town or is the MD considering running their own program maybe?
I don't believe so.
Not according to.
And
any
they
of their
definitely wouldn't be able to
research.
do it for $10,000, I can tell you that.
Yeah, they're not doing it for 10 grand.
It's the primary reason why Big Lakes got out of it. It was just too cost effective for them. It was too
They're
much.
coming on board with us, right?
Well,
Lakes?
High Prairie for sure is. There's conversations happening with Big Lakes as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard.
So High Prairie is
Yeah. Okay.
joining?
I believe needs a council motion, but it's all,
Right, so, okay. So
they're finalizing their
So-
budget. I
so
believe
the-
it's a.
The town of High Prairie is using our town of Slay Lake because we've offered them that service. So no, actually, I'm now on board with I would encourage the MD businesses to lobby their council, and I would again express my extreme disappointment in this decision.
Fair.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion, Council Ferguson.
A motion to accept the correspondence from the MD as information.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried. Next up, we have the cold shot correspondence. Me?
Addressed to you.
It is addressed to me.
Hmm.
It is a very long letter. The summary of it is there is a request from Cold Shot, which is a company that it provides the rural bus network since the departure of the Greyhound services. So their request is to sustain their operations. They are requesting $79,840 over the next 12 months in order to continue the operations of their business. They expect an answer from us by January 31st, and if they don't receive any help from us, they will have no choice but to shut down the services for the town of Slave Lake, as they will no longer be able to afford the expenses. They also indicated that it is their duty to inform the people of Alberta that they will be shutting down services if they don't receive funds, and they will be providing that information to the media should we decline their request for funding.
A threat, okay.
There's
Debate who put your hands up. for
Steve, you
second.
know.
Go ahead, Councillor Adams.
Just one of the questions I had, and I don't know if anybody here knows it, for Cold Shot. They're not, I've been I don't use them, but how much do they charge per trip? If their cost is $318 a day, they're saying they'll make nothing. So we're just paying for a guy to drive back and forth on a road,
Well, the cold
or
shot
what?
bus tickets, you can look up online.
They say, sorry?
$79 to Edmonton, so your mic's not on, Councillor Joba.
Yeah, I think it's about $79 to Edmonton. Anyway,
Well, there's
4 people have to go and they're profitable.
Fort McMurray to Edmonton says 81 as a quick look online, but Councillor Gromnick, did you want to?
I was
continue
gonna say
to look
there's
this up?
618 residents used it, right? So let's, less than 2 a day, but I obviously, we're not gonna give them $80,000 to tell a couple
It is-
people day travel.
So from Sawridge Travel Center to Edmonton Tim Hortons on 34th Ave, it is $102. Departing on Thursday.
I'm not in favor of this, I don't think.
I struggle with subsidizing essentially paying for a for-profit business to that extent for the benefit of 600 residents. I understand that the rural bus network is an important service. But there are options. There was also, they had written a letter previously to the Minister of Transportation. And the Minister of Transportation responded with some options such as looking at different financing, some programs from Community Futures and other alternatives. But the provincial government was not willing to subsidize these costs.
Oh, no.
And did Andrew have did you have Councillor Malum?
I constantly find that people don't even know that this service exists. If you're on discussion boards, maybe it's a matter of a business not putting their information out there. They're not promoting themselves good enough. There's a number of businesses that don't do that. Should we be helping, people who don't know how to do that?
I will make a motion that administration respond to the letter because they're asking for an answer by January 31st. indicating our regrets that we will not be providing the funding requested. Any further discussion on that motion? Call the question, those in favor. And that is carried. Do any of the counselors have any items for State of the Lake? Counselor Wylam does.
So Stage North is bringing Tina Hart to the Legacy Center January 27th at 7:30. Tina is a Montreal-born jazz vocalist that has played across Canada. You can buy tickets at the Source, Distractions in the Library. For more information, log on to stagenorth.org.
Anything else?
If no one else,
Go on,
yeah.
keep going and then I'll
I'll-
fill in the gaps.
Hey, I wanna just mention that many great clubs are currently fundraising throughout our community, including minor hockey, the Rotary Club, gymnastics is gonna be coming up with another fundraiser, and competitive volleyball. I wanna thank the public for supporting all of these groups that make our community stronger.
Okay, I will try and fill in the gaps here. I was going to go ahead all the way to February 3rd because we don't have a meeting next week. There is a rowathon, a fundraiser at East Shore Athletics to support Aaron Bjornson and his family. So you can contact East Shore Athletics for more information and to register your team. Also, the Slave Lake Curling Club is putting on a junior bonspiel. Actually, it's the Slave Lake Petroleum Junior Bonspiel. So you can contact the curling club about that for February 3rd. And there will also be a rare plant show at the Fix. This weekend, I also wanted to highlight that at the MRC, it's Female Hockey Day, Girls Tryout Day. I understand that the sign-up's already over for that, but there is the U18 Female Thunder versus Grimshaw at 4:45. So a great day for anyone interested in hockey to go out and catch a game. And with that, Councilor Hughes.
Motion to go into closed session?
Right, any further discussion? Call to question, those in favor. And that is carried.
Well, that makes up for all the short, boring ones, Joe.